Welcome to the Women in Wealth podcast, brought to you by Regina McCann-Hess, a certified financial planner with over 2 decades of experience. This show is for professional women who want guidance in working towards their retirement vision in learning, building, planning, striving for your dreams, and putting the work in now so that you can pursue your financial independence. Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, we're going to talk about 10 tips for a financially healthy retirement. There's a lot of things that we can talk about here, but we did narrow it down to 10 for time purposes. And our first thing is to reduce or eliminate debt before you enter retirement. So this is something you can work hard on for many, many years. It's something that we all deal with at one point or another in our lives, but it's so important that you get rid of it or almost all of it before you enter retirement, because obviously once you're in retirement, you're not going to have the paycheck that you did before, or, may not have as much of a paycheck. You may have a paycheck that might be similar, but it's a lot different. You're on a fixed income, a limited income. So therefore, it's going to be a lot harder to get out from under that debt. So that is the first thing that we try to do, is make sure that you can get out of most of the debt that you can before you retire, just to make it a little bit easier during your retirement years. The second thing that we suggest, tip number 2, is to delay Social Security payments until age 70, or at least wait till your full retirement age, which is pretty much 67 for most people. There's still a bunch of people out that are 66 in several months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, things like that. But I do talk to a lot of people who don't have any guidance and are planning on taking Social Security age 62. And if you ever have heard me speak, you know that is a no-no in my book. We do not take Social Security early, because you leave 8% a year on the table as a deduction to that Social Security payment, and it's a permanent decrease. So no Social Security age 62. Minimum age, your full retirement age, we'll just assume that's 67. In a great case scenario, we really try to limit you to taking it to age 70. If you are married, it might be a little bit easier because you can have one spouse. Usually the higher earning spouse, we have them wait till they're age 70, and the other spouse, we may be able to take it at 67, or they may both be able to take it at age 70. But it is something that's really, really important part of your strategy that you need to look at before you pull that trigger. So very important in my opinion. Point number 3, or tip number 3, is to contribute as much as you can to your 401k plan and IRA accounts while you are working. Now, even if you are a non-working spouse, you're at home with the kids, or you're at home, period, you can still contribute to an IRA if your spouse has earned income. And even if your both spouses are working and you're maximizing your 401ks, you can still contribute to an IRA. It may not be deductible if you have a 401k plan. It most likely will not be, but it's still money that you can put into a tax-deferred vehicle. Now, obviously, if you are in the income range where you can contribute to a Roth, I like those Roth plans, so consider that as well. And that kind of leads me into tip number 4. It's where you want to take advantage of Roth accounts to increase non-taxed retirement income. So that means when you're at work and you have a 401k plan, hey, call HR and say, hey, do you have a Roth version that I can contribute to? Can I choose between both? Can I split my account? Like, part of my contributions go to traditional, part of my contributions go to Roth, and the maximum amount per year is the same. It's just that the money that goes into the traditional 401k, you don't pay taxes on it now. It grows tax deferred. When you take the money out, you pay taxes then. If it's a Roth 401k, you pay taxes on that money now. You put the money in after tax. It grows tax deferred. And then assuming you follow the rules on the plan, when you take it out years and years away, that money and the growth come out tax free. People ask me, well, what about if I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket? Okay, well, yeah, you might be in a lower tax bracket. Maybe. We don't know what the tax brackets are going to be 10, 20 years from now. But let's see, a lower tax bracket versus no tax bracket. Pretty interesting. I like the no tax bracket. So obviously you want to talk to your accountant about these things. And that's why I like to compromise and say, we want to make our accountants happy and save some tax dollars today. So we put some money into the traditional 401k and then make your financial planner and strategy person happy and do part of it into a Roth 401k. But I am all about the Roth. Tax-free money is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay, tip number 5, avoid early distributions from retirement accounts for non-emergencies. Obviously, if you have a family emergency, a health emergency, yes, you have to do what you have to do, right? But if it's, we're going to take a tip to Disney, I can't even say it because it upsets me so much. I want to take my family to Disney, and how I'm going to pay for it is taking my money out of my retirement account. No. If you can't afford to do something without taking the money out of your retirement account, you shouldn't be doing it. This is money that you are going to need to make last for decades. People are living longer, especially if you're a female. We live a lot longer than men, 5 years on average. And there's no one there to take care of us at that point because usually we nurse our husbands and family members, and we're there afterwards with health issues. So that's going to cost a lot of money. So if you think, I'm going to have plenty of time to save, you need to save your money. Do not touch it for like day-to-day things. Soapbox over on that. Sorry, I get on these tangents, right? I get so passionate by these topics. All right, let's move on to tip number 6. Tip number 6 is save 1 to 2 years worth of rainy day funds. So that could be rainy day funds. It also could be all of your expenses. So if my living expense is, I don't know, $80,000 a year for all of my bills, my mortgage, tuition for kids, everything is $80,000 a year. That's a lot of money, right? So if I do that times 2, I should have used the lower example because this is overwhelming, right? It's $160,000. That is overwhelming. So what am I going to do? Am I going to be like, oh my God, I got to save $160,000 and then I'm going to be paralyzed? No, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, okay, $160,000. Well, actually, I just need to save a month's worth of that. And then once you have the month, okay, now my goal is to make 3 months worth of that. And then you get up to 6 months and then gradually 9 months and a year. And over time it happens, right? But if you look at the big goal and you're like, it's overwhelming, I myself would never be able to do it. So, break down the goal a little bit. But here's the reason you do that. If you can build that kind of rainy day fund and something happens, somebody gets sick, the breadwinner in the family gets sick, or, even if you're both breadwinners, if you're used to 2 incomes and you're now down to 1, that's painful. Or if, there's anything that happens, you have a tornado hit your house, you have a plane hit your house. Who would have thought that would happen in our world? But it does, right? So now you're like, okay, well, how do I overcome that? This is where you have these funds to rely on. And if you need spending money, this is something for especially my retirees. When we're going into retirement and beyond, we like to keep 2 years worth of cash flow available because that prevents us, or at least partially prevents us, from having to sell assets into a down market, because Murphy's Law is when you need that money, the market's going to go down and you're going to, most likely have to sell when the market's down. So if you have 2 years worth of rainy day savings or cash flow spending needs saved in something, very straight up, CDs, money market types of things like that, that does not fluctuate with the market, it won't matter if the market's down today or tomorrow because you have 2 years to recover from that. So that is tip number 6. Tip number 7 is do not panic in down markets. It's kind of similar to number 6 because if you have 2 years worth of cash flow saved, that is hopefully going to help you decrease your panic because you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. Oh my gosh, the market's down. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I have all this cash or CDs or money markets sitting over here. So I actually don't have to sell while the market's down. And, it gives me some time to hope that the market comes back by the time I need money. And I don't have to stress about that today. It's really a matter of relieving your stress a little bit and letting you sleep at night. Okay, tip number 8, always update account beneficiaries when you and your partner update your wills and in between that, because sometimes people don't update their wills for decades. So it should be something you look at like maybe once a year, once every other year at the most, because life changes, things happen. And especially you want to update them if there's been a death or a birth in your family, somebody got married, somebody got divorced. These are things where should trigger an alarm like, oh, wait a minute, that means I need to update my beneficiaries on all of my accounts. It could be at your bank, it could be at your investment account, your brokerage account, your retirement accounts, insurance policies, things like that. So definitely take a look at your beneficiaries every once in a while. Tip number 9, take your full required minimum distributions every year, starting at the appropriate age. So if you do not take a required minimum distribution, you could potentially have a 25% tax penalty from the IRS. Not a fun conversation to have. So you want to get together with your financial advisor or your accountant and determine what your required distributions are going to be for that year and make sure you take them. Obviously, the reason you have to take them is because Uncle Sam wants a piece of his pie. Remember that traditional 401k that you were contributing to that you never had taxes paid on? That's why you have to take a required minimum distribution, because Uncle Sam needs a form of payment to pay for all the things they're doing for everybody. So that's why you have to do it. Or at least that's my version of why you have to do it. So according to Regina. All right, tip number 10. Set up proper insurances, including umbrella insurance, long-term care insurance, life insurance for you and your loved ones. Obviously, this is not a fun conversation. I have it with my clients and they just literally want to kick me out of the conference room and, turn into a different conversation altogether, because no one wants to think about themselves in a long-term care facility. I can guarantee you that. I think I'd rather talk about death than picturing myself in a long-term care facility. But the reality is, it may happen to you, or it may happen to someone that you love. And, if you don't have the insurance, have a conversation about what your long-term care strategy is. In other words, if you don't have the insurance, one, who is going to take care of you? Are you going to take care of each other? That's fine. But, at some point, it becomes a big burden on one of the spouses or partners. And then the other thing is, if you're both sick at the same time, who is going to take care of you? Is it going to be a family member? Okay. Make sure they're aware of that plan and agree to it. Or is it going to be a home health worker? And then, okay, how are you going to pay for that? So that's a big part of the conversation. So, sometimes people don't need to look at or buy long-term care insurance because they have a strategy in place. Their family's around, their family has agreed to everything, but they have a sound plan about it. Life insurance, obviously, question why you need the life insurance. Is it to protect your partner, your spouse, your family members? Is it because you want that money to work for you after you're gone as your legacy? And that's great. But just, want to have a conversation about why you have the life insurance. What is it intended purposes? And obviously, who are the beneficiaries? And do you, want to review those beneficiaries like we talked about in a different tip? Umbrella insurance, of course, is to protect you in case somebody, slips on your sidewalk or hits, there's a car accident. There's many reasons for umbrella insurance, along with some of the other, basic house policies and flood policies that we have. So that is 10 quick down and dirty tips. Sometimes we can go dive deep into each one of those. You could tell which ones were my little soapbox topics that I like to dive deep in, but I think that should be enough for today. And I want to thank you for joining me. Again, I think our call to action today is think about what's important for you and which one of those healthy tips can you use to prepare for your retirement. Obviously, this is something you want to think about way before the day before you retire too. I would start thinking about that as well. Okay, well, thank you again for joining me. Again, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. I appreciate that you're following us on Women of Wealth series. My website is forgewealth.com. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Forge Wealth, and LinkedIn, Regina McCann-Hess. Go make it a great day. I'm also going to give you our information about how you can find out more in our founders video is created, and that is on our website at Forge forgewealth.com. You can watch that video if that helps. And the information in this podcast is education and general in nature, does not take into consideration the listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it's not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. Now, to determine which strategies or investments that may be suitable for you, you want to consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making that decision. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice is offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Forge Wealth Management are separate entities from LPL Financial. Our show guests and their companies are not affiliated with nor endorsed by LPL Financial, Private Advisor Group, or Forge Wealth Management. Thank you again for listening. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Women in Wealth podcast. You can watch the founder's video I created for you to learn more about me and how I can guide you towards your financial independence at www.forgewealth.com. The information in this podcast is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration the listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, and SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Forge Wealth Management are separate entities from the LPL Financial. Our show guests and their companies are not affiliated with nor endorsed by LPL Financial, Private Advisor Group, or Forge Wealth Management.